Ross Greenwood joins us now, of course, from New York, where there is so many parts of this story that are going to be playing out. The reaction to whatever the result will be fascinating. We saw in 2020 the cheering in the streets when it was Biden. We saw the booing in Times Square when it was Trump. What a great place to be, Ross. Thanks for getting up so early. I know it's probably even colder where you are than I am right now, but give us an idea of game day in New York.
Well, I'll tell you what, game day in New York is going to be really a terrific thing to watch because most of the polling events are in some of the most iconic spots in New York. The Metropolitan Museum, for example, the New York Library, which is, you know, scene of Ghostbusters, for example, if you've never been there. So some of the great buildings in New York are going to be the places where people turn out to vote on this day. So it's going to be a brilliant day out. And, you know, I've got to tell you that, you know, even though this is Democrat heartland, there's no doubt, there's plenty at stake, not only in the congressional races around here, but also there's other votes that will take place through New York, which will even be about state abortion rights are going to be up for grabs as well. So there's plenty at stake for people to vote about. But as you say, it's interesting just to note that the difference between what the last national polls coming out are about right now, swinging back towards Kamala Harris, versus the bookies, which are actually right now swinging back towards Donald Trump. And they historically have been a better measure of who ultimately wins this presidential race. So you go to Polymarket, you mentioned a little earlier, suggesting 61% to Trump, 39% to Harris. But of course, it's when they break down the individual states, you start to see just a little bit of the nuance, suggesting that Trump will pick up many of those states, those swing states that you spoke about. And so that's the key. So New York today is going to be a great place to get a real flavour of what's going on. But I want to tell you another story while I'm here, Paul, and that is an amazing sort of, as you would have picked this up, and that is that migration is one of the absolute keys to this election. People in New York are not happy about the rate of migration coming into here. People who are basically flowing across the borders eventually end up in big cities like New York. And so what's happened here is that the Mayor, Eric Adams, has started to turn grand hotels that have been empty into basically shelters for migrants and refugees. One of those is the Roosevelt Hotel. It's housed the people likes of Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe. You've had presidential races basically run there. Republicans have based themselves there. And now a migrant centre. And I've got to tell you, the people around there, we tried to speak to the migrants. They broadly were warned off by the security guards not to talk to us. But have a listen to some of the bystanders who came past when we asked them about whether they were happy that one of the grandest hotels near Grand Central Station has now been turned into a migrant refuge.
We're all for immigrants as long as they're vetted in a limited amount that we can afford.
So is it a good thing for New York or not?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Why not? What's your sense about this? I mean, migrants obviously are coming into New York at a large rate at the moment. Just explain that to me.
Well, I think tomorrow is going to be really important in that process, right? So we'll see what happens.
And it's like, oh, you know, the NIMBY's not in my backyard, but I don't know. You don't want people suffering and you don't want people starving.
I'll tell you what, Paul, I don't know whether you've picked this up either, but the number of people, as we walk around the streets with our Sky News microphone and stuff like that, they roll up and just tell us how much they like Sky News in Australia. That's the thing that's really got me about this. I thought nobody would know who the hell we were on the streets, but it really has struck me that Sky News in Australia actually resonates through our YouTube channel, through the ways in which people can get it there, and that people actually know who we are when we're walking around the streets. They know some of the people on air. So the funny thing is that the messages that we send out, that it does get out in America, and of course they see this as being really, you know, sort of credible information because they are absorbing so much of this as a part of this election campaign.
Yeah, my oath. There's so much data, so much colour, and, you know, from lots of different fun as well. Particularly, I think Rita's the ultimate star over here when it comes to lefties losing it, and plenty of other stuff we do. Can I just quickly ask about the betting markets, right? People need to understand how much money is that has been bet in this thing. I'm looking here. $1.3 billion has been put on Donald Trump, slowly but surely. $815 million on Kamala Harris. But then there's that other betting market called the stock market. It's been going pretty well of recent months, pushed particularly with AI and the AI bubble. When we hear terms like the market has priced in an election result, what does that mean?
Well, effectively, in this case, it's about the fact that the market had priced in a Donald Trump victory. And so really there was a thing called a Trump trade. And what that meant was a whole bunch of stocks that might have done really well under Donald Trump. Effectively, people piled into these stocks. Now, in the last few days, there's just been a few wobbles in some of those, as in particular that Iowa poll came out suggesting that Kamala Harris could surprisingly win Iowa. It's kind of flicked back the other way since then. So as a result, many of those stocks suddenly fell because the Trump trade wasn't working so well. And so really, in many ways, even the future of the economy, and this is what I pick up again with speaking with Americans, is that they sense that this is such an important election for the future of its economy, for the future of the direction of the United States as a global power. And I think this is one of the keys where so many families indeed are going to be split down the middle. There could be people in the families voting for Kamala Harris, on the other side, people in that family voting for Donald Trump. And this is where, in many ways, it's not just unions and lefties and, sort of right-wingers on the other side. This has come down to the fundamental, view of the future of America. And so that goes to the stock market, that goes to the investment markets. And you even talked about, say, the betting markets and the big money there. Well, one guy who is in Europe put $30 million into Donald Trump. Big old trader, lots of money. And they investigated this guy to see whether he was actually trying to tip the odds in Donald Trump's favour to try and see whether that could influence the way in which people vote. They were investigating even those things as a part of this this whole election campaign. So as I say, it's really narrow, it's pretty fine. And of course, we're going to be right across the streets today and round America. It's going to be a great day out just to see Americans go to the polls today.
All right, do me a favour, go to your nearest diner, get some French toast with extra sausage and bacon for me, my friend. Wash it down with a Coke and feel American on the inside. Talk to you soon, Ross.
Good on you. Thanks a lot.